Today, I'm super excited to have this guest on today. If you grew up playing soccer in the United States, Florida, you knew about him. If you played in the ACC division, you knew about this guy. I'm super stoked to have him on. Today's guest is David Loera. He's a Mexican born and raised to shine on the soccer field. He's a baller who made waves at NC State, starting every single game of his college career. And he was recognized as all ACC honors and even earned a spot on the Mac Herman Trophy watch list. Like I said, if you play D1, you know about this guy in the pros as well. He's been balling out. And I'm excited to talk about a bit of the setbacks he's had and the journey for what's to come. So I'm super excited. Welcome to the show, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about you, bro. Where you grew up, how you got introduced to the game, and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, I was born in Mexico City.
Yep.
My mom is Cuban, and she married my dad in Mexico. And basically, bro, like, I grew up playing in Pumas, the academy there. I moved here when I was about 7 years old. After my parents separated, I came down here, new beginnings from me and my family. But, I mean, it was good. To be honest, bro, I didn't like playing soccer when I was little. I'm going to be real with you.
Why?
I was just like really hyper, and, we would play games, and I would be the kid running around my own teammates, scoring own goals just because I wanted the ball and stuff.
Menace.
Yeah. And I grew up there playing. I never really took it seriously until I realized that I was really good. And then from there, everything paved out good for me. But it definitely started in Mexico. Then coming here, it was a reality check.
Well, what do you mean by reality check? Whoa.
The structure was completely different. I had no club when I came here. I actually got recognized the first time. It was one day after being here. My stepdad took me to the park, and we were just kicking the ball, and I was shooting on goal, and one of the coaches came in and said, bring him to my team, and that's where I started.
So a random coach?
Randomly. There was a team practicing there. He saw me playing, and then he put me on his team, so...
Bro, so you said you grew up playing Pumas Academy, like early age?
Yeah.
What was that like at all? Was there structure there? Were the kids good? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, over there, from what I remember, it might have changed now. You usually, with the little kids, because I was young, you start off in like a little league, like a rec league, really. There's kids that are good, there's kids that aren't good. And what they do is they have so many teams and so many scouts already coming from where they call it in Mexico, es el representativo, la cantera. And they're everywhere. They're scouting even rec. And I stood out over there all the time. And actually, when I was 6 years old, I got scouted and I started playing with the 10-year-olds already in the academy. We were playing Cruz Azul, America, and everything.
Wow.
And I had an amazing season there. And I actually got, they wanted to take me to Spain to train with like Barca and those teams, but that was right at the cutoff where my mom had just separated from my dad, and we moved, and my mom was like, "Ain't no way, like, you're only like 7 years old, like, you're not going."
She don't want to let you go.
Yeah, you're not going there alone.
I feel like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Talk about a little bit when your parents had separated, right? What was that like for you? Were you maybe too young to understand what that was, and did you truly grasp because that's a big moment in anybody's life.
Yeah, no, for me, my parents separated when I was young. I can't even remember, and basically I grew up with my mom and my grandparents, and they come from a way different background. Soccer knowledge, not there at all.
So I didn't know anything.
Nothing. The only one that knew about soccer really was my dad.
Yeah.
Right, but he was always working, really not in the picture when I was young like that. So my mom kind of just took it as, okay, like, you're good at this, like, I'm gonna you keep going. I would cry, I don't want to go to the games, I don't want to do this, like, I don't want to do that. No, you're going.
She'd make you go no matter what.
She'd make me go no matter what. And at 6 years old, I had a bad game at 6 years old. My mom is over there ripping me a new one, man.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would she say to you, though? She'd be like...
She
curse at you in Spanish or English?
She would curse at me in Spanish. My grandpa, I was 6 years old in Mexico. The fields are all fenced always, fenced. And my grandpa, you would see him when I have the ball, he would get on the fence and start, like, shaking it when I was, like, having a bad game, talking about, like, come on, like, cursing at me in Spanish. And I'd just be like, okay, like, whatever.
But how old were you at this?
I was, like, 6.
Getting cursed at, bro. That's so funny. A lot of You think of like American culture.
Mm-hmm.
If a parent were to yell at their own kid like that, maybe there's some out there, some crazy parents, but that's just not common.
Yeah.
Would you say maybe them being hard on you at a young age made you push a little further and maybe have that grit? Or they're the ones that really push you, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I played so good just so I could have a good rest of my day. Mm-hmm. Because if I play bad, I would not have a good day just because my parents were, especially my mom, was so demanding on me. Yeah. And it was not even like, it was just the fundamentals, like running, defending, working hard, right? If I did those things and still had a bad game, she wouldn't. But if she saw that, I was walking, she yelled in front of everybody, like, you should be a model walking like that. Like, just go be a model instead. Like, just playing outside, and everybody. Hey bro,
you got the face for it.
And everybody's parents were like looking at her like all crazy. But that's just how I grew up. But I was used to it. I was used to it. So
a lot of them push you. I feel like that's. Would you accredit a lot of to where you're at now for those early years where they pushed you, or was it something that's just kind of always been inside of you?
It's always been inside of me, honestly. I come from blue collar parents. From their paths and how they grew up was not easy at all. So for me, I had a great life compared to them growing up. So for me, it was more like I didn't mind getting yelled at because I was doing what I loved, which was playing soccer. And from there, everything paved out good for me. So it was good.
So you came at a young age, you got seen on a field, which is something out of a movie, really.
Yeah.
Somebody sees you and you get scouted, right? That's kind of every kid's dream.
Yeah.
And talk about that, your transition into you mentioned more structure, right? Where did you start on a club local team, or because you grew up playing in the Orlando City Academy, and you were, if not the top player coming out of there? I mean, you have a big name, and at the same time, there's a lot of expectations on you at a young age. What was your experience like playing in the Orlando City Academy? And was that right away? At what age did you get there?
So when I started club here, I started at the local club right by my house. It was we were good, but it wasn't like top. I started playing there, and then probably like 2-3 years later, it's when Orlando City formed, and I actually went on the first academy that was the first DA that was formed, the U16. I was U13 at that time. They put me on their team. I didn't have to try out. I didn't have anything. I just went straight into the DA.
Were you always the best player every team you've been on?
Probably, yes.
It's okay. This is where you can let it out. You can be confident.
Yes, probably almost always, yes.
Yeah.
Youth level for sure.
For sure.
I would say, yeah.
I was going to say, so in the Orlando City Academy, other players you played with, would you play up with the first team a lot? What was your experience like at the academy level compared to the pro level? Would you see a lot of the pros and talk to them and play with them? What was that like?
So I was actually blessed because I was, I started really noticing that I wanted to become a pro at a very young age. I knew that I had something special. I was talented. So when I got to the Orlando City level at 14 years old, I was already, at that time, it was still not MLS. Yeah. MLS came the year after that. It was still the USL championship when they won the championship. Mm-hmm. And they, you had players like Dom Dwyer and stuff like that there. So at that age, I would train a lot with that USL team at 14 years old.
So at 14, were you the youngest kind of player to be training with these top dogs?
At that time, yes. And it was when I could, because I was still going to school. Back then you didn't have the option to homeschool and then go train with the pros in the morning, because their schedule was always training in the morning. So I had school. So some days I would have to skip school to go train with them. But their coaches, Adrian Heath at the time, was always telling my mom, bring him in tomorrow. They wanted me to go in every single day.
And were you able to go every single day, or was it a lot of conflict with school, stuff like that?
Yeah, a lot of conflict with school. I wasn't able to go every day. I would go when I could, and that's just how it was for a long time.
You mentioned Adrian Heath. Would you say he was probably one of the first coaches or mentors maybe that you had that truly believed in you and you're like, wow, this guy believes in me, I can make it? What was that like?
Yeah. He would always come to the fields and watch us train. We were already at that level where, you know, my team was already ranked. We were playing at the top level youth wise, and he would always come and he would always tell my coach, that kid, you know, he's special. Yeah.
Talk about when you were at the academy, you got a little older, probably around 16, 17. Talks of Homegrown, I'm sure, were definitely in the conversation. I remember a lot of that. What was it like going the recruitment process for you for college? Because you went the college route, right? You didn't go right out of and why did you decide to go that route?
So realistically, for me, I was always somebody who is gonna sound funny, but you know, was very friendly. I had a lot of friends, and I enjoy that scene. We're going out with my friends, you know, going out on a Friday.
Right.
So for me, you know, at the beginning of it, it was stressful because I wasn't really ready to make the jump yet.
To go pro
yet.
Why not? Well, why do you think that?
Because I felt nervous and scared at the same time, because my mentality completely shifted when I moved to the United States. Right? If I was in Mexico, I think it would have been a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
But once I started discovering that lifestyle of, you know, like, oh, like, you know, I'm not going to be able to live my teenage years properly how I wanted to, definitely brought some fear into me, and I didn't want to have any regrets.
You felt like it was going to be very demanding?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because I had already been in the environment at such a young early age, I already knew what the environment was going to be like. I already knew the expectations, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it was scary. I was very nervous about it, and I really didn't want to deal with that. So I just kept on, okay, yeah, talk, no, yeah, no. You know, I would tell the coaches, no, I can't train today. I can't do this. I can't go in. But just because of that fear
of the unknown.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. You're used to being the top dog. Mm-hmm. You're used to being the man at every team, the baller, and it's like big leagues are coming up, right? Being at a young age, it is very demanding. You see these pros, few guys going pro at like 15, 16. Do you, looking back, would you do anything differently?
I don't think I would have done anything different, if I'm being honest with you, just because for me, it paved out how it was going to turn out.
Gotcha.
You know, so I don't have any regrets in my early life, I will say, but the experience was amazing. I mean, I love the experience. It was good. And, you know, I look back at my youth years and I'm like, damn, like I really wish I could go back, you know?
Why? And do what specifically? Live more? Is it train more? Or what do you think?
Just, it's not necessarily what I would do. It's just like, it was just so fun for me. I was always the top guy on my team. I would always mess around. I would always, you know, be myself, and I wouldn't have to worry about not playing.
Less stress.
Yeah.
More joy.
So I knew I could, this is going to sound horrible, but I knew I could go to sleep in high school specifically. I could go to, like, you know, one of those little high school parties that they used to throw.
Bro, those were fun.
And I could go to sleep at 2-3 a.m. and wake up at 9 a.m., play a game, and still score 2-3 goals and start and have no fear of, like, okay, like, you know?
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by SS Pools. Based out of Long Island, New York, SS Pools is a pool company that's been in business for over 20 plus years. The work is serviced by the owner himself, so you know the pool is going to be handled with quality and care. If you're interested in inquiring, send an email over to sspools@gmail.com and they'll get you taken care of. Mention the ThePath podcast for a 25% discount for your first 2 months of service. So you transitioned to the college game. You went directly to NC State, right? What was your recruitment process like? Was it, because I remember you, when I was at USF, you visited there. You're supposed to go there. I think that our coach left to NC State at the time. What was that recruitment process like for you? Was it super easy? You just knew everything was taken care of? Or was it like, I don't know what school to go to? Or did you know right away where you wanted to go?
No, I changed completely. It was my senior year. It was probably 4 months before graduation when I committed to NC State.
That's pretty late.
Yeah, it was late. I had obviously a lot of interest from all the
over
top
country,
schools.
yeah.
But I was also, you have voices. Coaches, no, don't go to the college route. Sign the homegrown, because I had the offer on the table.
Right.
At my sophomore year, I had the offer at the table. Junior year, offer at the table. Senior year, offer at the table.
And you didn't take it.
And I didn't take it.
Did you have maybe family members around you helping you, or like supporting you throughout that, or was it kind of all on you, or maybe there's a mentor coach in the picture?
So my mom would always wanted me to go the college route, because she valued education. She values education highly. My mom is now a doctor, so education was big on my family. So she always wanted me to go into school and get a degree and stuff like that.
Gotcha. And going into the college game, what was the biggest difference you saw at the youth academy level versus the college level?
At the college level, for example, for me, I didn't live at home at college. I obviously had to move to North Carolina,
right,
when all my life was here. So at the college level, I knew I was there for soccer. I didn't look at it as I'm here for an education. I knew I was there for soccer. Whereas in the youth level, soccer to me was just my hobby.
It's joy,
it was just my joy.
Yeah.
When I went to college, I knew I wasn't good at school ever. I knew that, I'm here and I'm here to play. That's it.
Yeah.
So then it was more structure, you have more, you have a gym, you have people working for the team, physios, everything, that for you to take care of your body, that you start taking advantage of it when you start seeing it. When as the youth level, you don't really have those amenities until you really reach the first team.
Right.
Right.
So with the level being super different, did you find it was more physical in college than it was technical?
For me, of course,
yeah,
college is harder than academy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a big transition for me, because I was already playing friendlies with the first team, preseason friendlies. I was training with the first team on a regular basis on my senior year, that I just had gotten used to it. So when I got to college, I wasn't surprised. I was able to fit in perfectly and do my thing perfectly without having to adapt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's tough. I want to highlight too, and we're gonna get into it. You've had some setbacks in your career with injuries and things like that, and mentally that could really mess with somebody. Tell me about the first time where you had a bit of a setback like that. Was it at the youth level? Was it at the college level? When did you first kind of?
My first setback was in college. I played my freshman year. I had an amazing season, and I ended up having a sports hernia at the beginning of it. So I played the season in pain, and they said, okay, it's better that you get surgery. So I went and got surgery. And
so you played that whole season in pain?
Yeah.
Never 100%?
No. Was
that your freshman or sophomore year?
That was my freshman year.
Bro, and how did you end that season? How many? And you had goals, assists? How many?
Yeah, I had, I believe, 8 goals and like 11 assists that season. I made all ACC freshman team.
With the sports hernia?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I also played every minute of every game that year.
That is wild. And the coaches know what you were going through.
Yeah. Yeah, but I wanted to thug it out, I wanted to to go through it, because I didn't want the thing I hate the most is seeing my team play and me not being able to be on the field.
Did you feel like maybe that hurt you physically, right? Pushing past those limits? You think it might have messed you up a little more, whereas you maybe would have taken a step back and took care of your body?
I think it wouldn't have made any difference. I need a surgery. If
right.
The doctor tells me I could play through it, I'm going to play through it, right? Yeah. So
no one's ever 100% either.
Exactly. So to me, it was a no-brainer. It was my first time in college. I knew my path. I knew my vision, where I wanted to get to. For me, there was no time to sit on a bench or sit outside being injured.
Well, how many surgeries have you had?
6.
6 surgeries?
6 surgeries.
I mean, tell me. So sports hernia.
I had sports hernia on the right at first.
Mm-hmm.
My sophomore year came, played the whole season. Sports hernia on the left.
Both legs, sports hernia.
Sophomore year.
Jesus.
Came back. Didn't get any injuries. Probably 5 years later, at San Antonio, when I was in San Antonio, that was my first big serious injury that completely changed everything for me.
Which was
I tore my groin completely off the bone.
We were talking a little bit about it offset, but I do want to talk about on camera how crazy this is. You said it tore off of your was it off your bone?
Off the pelvis.
Pelvis completely. And you said it was something about 3 centimeters.
Yeah, so what the surgeon was telling me, he said that usually if you tear it up to 3 centimeters, it grows back and you can recover without surgery. It would just take the same amount of time with surgery, but mine tore 9 centimeters off the bone, a complete avulsion, which means that no matter what I did, no sort of rehab could fix it. So they had to go and reattach the muscle and the tendons to the bone.
Jesus. So that was third or fourth surgery? Which one was that at that point?
That was at that point my third.
So fourth one was?
Fourth one. So I had complications from that same groin.
Okay, so you had to
So they had to go in there again. That was my fourth. My fifth was my shoulder. Actually, I've had 7, and then I had to redo the groins again 3 months ago. So.
Oh, so it's funny because we see a lot of like old heads when we play pickup sometimes, and they're like, I could have gone pro if I didn't injure myself. We have a guy that had 7 surgeries playing pro and still back at it. So no excuses. If you didn't make it pro, it's because you didn't make it pro. It's none of that. So that's 7 surgeries, bro. That's insane. Have you had a season where you've been 100%? When was the last time?
Last time I played a season where I was 100% was my junior year, right before I got signed to Orlando.
Jeez.
And obviously my time at Orlando City, I went injury-free. But I had a lot of, setbacks there too. In terms of, you come from college, being the top guy. I was ranked number 1 player in college in the watch list. I was all ACC first team. I go into Orlando City, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew in my mind, I never said, okay, like I'm going to go in there and start right away, because.
But at this point, do you feel like you maybe got past that fear that you initially spoke about of like, wait, I want to go the college route because this is a lot. Do you feel like you're at this point in your life, you felt like you were past all that? You were ready for it.
Yeah, I was ready for it. And when I realized I was ready for it was my last game in college. When I realized, okay, like, I have to move on to a higher level. Like, it's time now. Like, it's time. Like, I just knew it was time. My level showed it was time. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, that's when I think of 7 surgeries, that's insane.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit more about mentally where you went, the lowest point, and how, like, what was that like, bro? Waking up, you have all these surgeries, recoveries. Mentally, what does that do to you?
Yeah, mentally, it destroys you. It almost defiles you. You're for me, I felt defiled as a human being, if I'm being honest, because you're away from your family. I'm a very family guy, and you're always on the move. And when you reach pro, realistically, you're no used to a pro environment if you can't play. They don't really care about your mental health. They don't care about what you're going through off the field. It's business when you go there. You can play, you can perform, we're going to treat you good. You can't play, you can't perform, they put you to the side. And for me, it was difficult. I mean, I went through, this past year, actually, I cried probably every single night of a season.
Wow.
Yeah, it was tough for me. It was tough for me, and also just the thought of whether you disappointed anybody, the thought of whether
those thoughts creep in.
Yeah, like, what does my family think about me now? Like, my friends, everybody, because sometimes, their aura shows. They might not tell you, but like, you could tell the vibe.
Yeah.
That they give you.
Bro, that's not easy. Do you think maybe there should be more of an emphasis? And I feel like there is a little bit on mental health, players' mental health. Do you think teams could do a good job? Was there a sports psychologist available for you in these teams that you were at?
Yeah, I think ultimately, like, clubs could definitely do a better job. And from my experience, when I was at Lexington, there was a sports psychologist there. But I couldn't I couldn't speak to him because I felt like he couldn't relate to what I was going through, no matter what.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what, mental health, all those things are, it's how you click well. And myself, I've gone through therapy. I've done that. And it's who you click with, because you go to a therapist and it's like, this person's 66 years old and they're supposed to relate to me about my problem. It's not, yes, there's a science to it, but at the same time, that emotional side, it's really hard to navigate.
Right. And for me, it was more like, I would tell him what I was going through, which is no secret, soccer is my life.
Of course.
It's all I know. I've never worked a regular job before. I'm used to that environment. I put my everything into accomplishing a goal that I'm lucky enough to have been able to make that level and sign professional, which a lot of people, won't be able to do. But now you reach a level where every little thing can impact your mentality. Injuries, not playing, there's so much outside noise that goes into it that affects you in a very heavy way. So for me, when my experience with therapists and stuff, it's just they just don't I just feel like they don't understand, because it's different. Like, you can't tell me if you've never played a sport, or you can't tell me if you can't relate to it like so I couldn't open up about it. So yeah, I would go and talk about it, and then I would tell him something, and then he would reply to me with something else that made no sense, and I'd just be like, all right, like this does not help for me. Yeah.
So putting more of an emphasis on people that have gone what you've gone through, where you can relate a little more, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I'm gonna go get a degree for something I've never done. I'm gonna go get hired at this team.
Right.
And then I feel like maybe teams feel like they've maybe just checked off a box. Yep, no, we have a sports psychologist they're taking care of, just so we won't get controversy or media attention, right? Where we support mental health. But are you really supporting players' mental health? That's a big thing that I get fired up about.
Yeah.
What do you think they can do better there? Do you think it's hiring more? Is it giving you the freedom to maybe go out and find your own, and they maybe help support with that? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the freedom of giving you the opportunity to be able to find somebody else, and then be able to provide financial needs for that.
Right.
Because most of the time is, if you don't want to go with the team psychologist, then you're on your own. You go pay.
And they're expensive.
Yeah.
Very.
And it is the same thing with a lot of like doctors as well. I went through that process with my last surgery, where I didn't want to go with a certain surgeon and I wanted to go a different route, and they basically said, okay, well, you either go to this guy and we'll pay for it, or you go a different route and you're on your own.
That's crazy.
So it took me almost 2 to 3 months to be able to get my surgery, because I was fighting over it, So, but luckily everything resolved. Everything is good now. Still recovering, and you never know. I'm at that mentality now, when you go through so many hardships, injuries, especially, because it's hard. It's hard that you prepare your mind now. I will say I'm more prepared that, whether it works out or whether it doesn't, I'm going to be okay. You get what I'm saying? Like,
it's powerful.
I will be good. Whereas before, I didn't have that maturity, and I had to go through those hard moments to understand that soccer does not last forever. And soccer, and just like any sport, you can be on top of the world one day, and the next day, your career could be over, right?
Bro, that's not an easy thing to go through. And
No.
the qualities you develop through those hardships, right? That's what makes you who you are. And talk a little bit about, I know it's a couple of years down the road, but have you thought about what life would be after soccer? I know you're recovering, where, you're preparing for the season coming up, but have you thought about maybe things after, what you're passionate about?
I definitely want to stay in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to do. What exactly is it? I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm actually, right now, I told myself, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I told myself, you know what, I got to go out and look for a job and see what that life is like. Because like I mentioned to you before, I've never had a 9-to-5 or a job where, it's the reality for a lot of people. And I went out there and got a job, and And I can honestly tell you, I'm not a big fan of it, and I definitely wanna start something. What it is, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. And right now, the way it is I'm just living day by day, and I'm just going it one step at a time. Because when you start thinking too much about the future or like what you want to do, and the reality is, it takes more time than what you think, and that's the problem that I see today with a lot of people in sports and in life as well. Is things don't work out now, your mentality just goes down, and the what if, you'll never know what the what if could have been, because you just gave up because it didn't work out at that time that you wanted it to work out. When it's like we're not really in control of when it works out. It just kind of plans out. You just have to continue to keep going and keep going and keep going until you can't anymore, right? I wouldn't be able to live with myself with soccer if I just gave up knowing that I still could have given it more. And that's where I'm at now. That's why I refuse to give up.
Yeah.
Because I know that I still have that fire for the sport.
Right.
Right? I still have that dream, you know? Because that's still my dream. And I know that looking back at it in the future, if I come back to it, I want to be able to say I did everything I was able to do. And whether it works out or not, I have that fulfillment within myself that I gave it my all. Yeah. And it builds good qualities in your life as well. 100%. You know? And it paves the way for whatever you're going to do in the future. That mentality. Yeah. Instead of just going through something hard and stopping right away. Because you'll never get anywhere like that. No. You know?
And they say like your mess is your message, right? So a lot of the things you go through, 7 surgeries, I'm trying to think of a player that has gone through that. That's insane. So your transition now, I know you're recovering hard now, you're training and things like that. Do you have kind of an idea of where you want to go? You want to stay East Coast, West Coast? If you could do wherever you want to go, where would you go?
Anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world.
Brother, I don't care. I just want another opportunity.
Yeah.
I want another opportunity, and my main goal at this point, and that's how much these experiences have changed the way I think, is I don't care if I'm playing or not. I just want to be one full season healthy. That's my mentality. Take it one step at a time. Yeah. Because you maintain one season healthy, my quality, I'm so confident in myself that if I'm healthy, I know I can go anywhere and play. My main goal is, can I stay healthy? That's it.
Yeah.
And wherever it is at this point, obviously down the road, things pave out the way that I want them to, and hopefully they will. Then you have the options, But right now I don't have an option. Yeah. Whatever team wants me, I'm there.
Yeah. Having that mentality where you go through 7 surgeries and it's like, I don't even care. I'm still here. I'm still going to be there. Bro, that's it's perseverance. It's grit, I wanted to kind of transition into kind of I know we talked on some deep topics, and this is so important. I think people need to hear it. But we'll kind of transition into more of a lighter segment. Who was the best player that you've ever played with?
Mauricio Pereira. By far.
Why was he so good?
His demeanor, the way he treated players. But it wasn't like, these big players, sometimes they don't train, or they're lazy in training. It happens a lot. Rightfully so. You have the
right. You got the name, you got the clout. Yeah. I think, yeah.
I can't tell you one time that I didn't see him train harder than anybody in the team. And then obviously his quality spoke for itself,
Right. Baller.
Like, I'm never going to forget the first time I saw him. He had sweatpants, a beanie, and I was like, this guy doesn't look like he even plays soccer. And he steps on the field, and he's just playing balls that you're just like, I'm just like, what? How?
Yeah. Bro, that's what we said about you. We saw him in a training video with a wife beater. I go, no way this guy plays soccer. But he's a baller. Yeah, that's awesome.
So him for sure. And him treating players. Yeah. He was so humble. This guy's making millions of players, played in Russia for so long, and just a regular guy.
Yeah.
Treats you well, gives you advice, says hi to everybody.
It's amazing.
Treats everybody with respect.
Someone you truly respect and has all aspects on and off the field.
Exactly.
Kind of like a role model.
Exactly.
Right.
A true captain.
Yeah.
A true captain.
That's amazing, bro. I was to say. What about the player? And I always say it's like the one player you hate to play against, but you would love to have on your team, right? People say like Diego Costa, for example, Sergio Ramos, like players like that. Is there a player that you've played against where you're like, man, this guy's so annoying, but I would love to have him on my team?
I didn't play against him, but I played with him. Kyle Smith, the right back for Orlando City.
Just grit.
Soldier
gritty.
is what we used to call him, the soldier. Because no matter what happened, he was so consistent that you knew he was going to perform no matter what. And it's not that, he was the best player on the field or anything. It's just he was so consistent in what he did that separated him. And that's why, he's still having a great career, and he's still, he's been with Orlando for so long already, because he's just somebody that you can rely on.
Who was the goofiest in the locker room? The guy that's just super out there, always like maybe playing music.
Pedro Gallese.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man, that guy is something else. He was something else, man. But he's a good guy too. But
Yeah.
he was just funny, like. I know his face. He looks so serious all the time. He's like, yo.
You see games and you're like, whoa, yeah.
But in the locker room, everything, a little kid, man. Literally, a little kid. A little kid. He would always mess around with the equipment guys. We had an equipment guy, he was kind of bald. He would always be touching his head. No respect, no nothing. He was just there, man. It was too much. But it lightens your day when you see that, right? When you see, okay, like this guy is an international player who went to World Cups and has played in Copa Americas and plays in the Conmebol, and he's just a regular guy, like he's just a regular guy. Like he doesn't carry himself any bad. He moves around. He's somebody that off the field, you go have a drink with him or hang out with them, and you're like, okay, like what does this guy do? He's definitely not a soccer. Like he's goofy as heck.
You would never think about it, like seeing him on the side of the road.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. Now, I was going to say that we're going to cut to a segment. It's called the Corner of Controversy, right? We got that bowl there. There's a couple of notes in there. So there's a lot of controversial topics that we talk about, right, within the U.S. And so what you do is you just pick one randomly. You hand it to me and we'll talk about it. But we need your 100% honest opinion on it. Don't worry about being politically correct. We can always edit this out if we need to.
Brother, one good quality is I'm always honest. It is what it is.
Let's get it.
Let's see.
There. All right, we got. Ooh, this one is good. Foreign players in the MLS, growth opportunity or talent blocker? So let's dive a little bit into that real quick. Does bringing in foreign talent help elevate the league, or does it limit opportunity for domestic players?
I think it limits the ability for domestic players. If I'm being honest with you.
Please.
Because especially when you reach the professional level, there's so many politics that go into it that people don't understand.
Such as? Like what? What do you mean by that?
Such as you bring in a player from South America and you just paid $4 or $5 million
the business
for
side.
them. You bring him in, you think that guy's not going to play over you no matter how good you train for, let's say, a homegrown player or a domestic player or a college player who came on. To the club, it's an investment. They just brought somebody in that's worth $5 million that was balling in Copa Libertadores or something like that. It's very hard for you to even, and if that player plays your position, it's not impossible. I'm not saying that, but the business, you start to see really the business side. Whether the player is that much better than you, which in most cases they are not even. Probably the domestic player is better than them in training and doing all these things, but it comes down to, okay, this guy, you bring him in from South America, $5 million. He already has 100 caps, playing professionally.
Got the resume.
He has the resume. You have somebody like a homegrown, 0 games, 0 experience. You tell me, like it's, and that's when it comes down to opportunity.
Bro, I say this all the time. if you're especially in like an attacking position, right? You're looking at center attacking midfielders, forwards, wingers, right? And D mids, whatever it is, you're competing. If you're growing up here in the US, and US is already looked at in a certain lens globally with soccer and football, for those of you that are going to tear me up online. It's looked at as not as competitive league, and you're trying to climb through these rankings, and you have a DP player, right? These designated players being brought in these specific positions. So not only you're competing against these DP players, but I feel like it's much harder if you're playing an attacking position. Whereas if you're a little, let's be 100% honest here, a lot of these MLS homegrowns and these players that are balling out in the MLS, they're defensive players. Like these American, right? These American players, they're defensive players.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's hard. So how do you change that? Right? How do you navigate through that?
I think a lot of it has to do with, because you're gonna reach the professional level, and nobody's gonna be bad. Everybody's good. Now, how you navigate through it is luck. I'm just being honest. It's straight luck. You're going into an environment, the coach, if he likes
how you fit into the system,
how you fit into the system. If the coach does not like you, it doesn't matter how good you are not gonna play. If he doesn't see you fitting into a system, you're not gonna play. And that's where your mentality, especially someone younger or with not that much experience, has to kick in. And you have to persevere through those moments, because you will feel, you might train. Yeah, you're on the first team, but you're being brought down to play with the academy, MLS Next, or whatever they call it now, So, and then it brings your confidence down, and there's
that's a big thing, the confidence piece, bro.
And then now you show up to training every day, and you feel like no matter what I do, I will never get the chance, because I can be training 100 times better than this guy. I just don't have that resume.
Yeah.
So if the coach just doesn't give you the opportunity, how can you show? If you don't get an opportunity, how can you show? So that's the problem now, that with like players being brought in, and the players that are being brought in, they're being brought in most likely by the coach. That's the player who they're recruiting, or the club. And now it comes down to so much politics that it's just so hard. And that's why I've seen so many guys that are so good that have, I don't even know where they're at anymore.
Bro, how many ballers, like growing up with, I know a ton. Bro, one kid specifically, baller. But thing is, you're in an attacking position, and those guys are getting paid millions.
Yeah.
Would you think it's better if you're younger? Let's say you're at that 16 to 21, 22 age. Do you think it's easier for someone to climb up the football, let's call it the rankings per se, not necessarily rankings, but the tiers? Do you think it's easier for them to climb up the tiers, whether that's going college route or homegrown in the MLS here in the United States? Or let's say I'm going to go play third division in Germany. Do you think it's easier for them to go overseas and get that recognition, or you think they'll get more of a fair chance overseas?
I do think so. I think that's something that I wish I would have done when I had the opportunity, because I had the opportunity to do it. And it's slowly, because you do well, you will move up. Here, you do well, you can kill it in the, let's say, USL Championship. An MLS club, very, very, very less than likely will not take
the stars have to like align, right?
Exactly.
They got to be missing that forward or something like that.
Whereas I feel like overseas, you do well, you have the opportunity to grow.
Oh, 100%.
Even let's say Brazil, or like, the Serie B, you're still competing, because your team does well, you do well. You're going to move up to the first division, and then you have a good situation. All it takes is one good season, and now you're on top of the world.
Whereas maybe USL, it's not just one season.
Well, in USL, I've seen guys scoring 25, 30 goals, and then they get no MLS looks, not even a contract. It's just no MLS looks. So now you get to that point where you're like, no matter what I do, really, it's like the stars really have to align. You really have to get really lucky. Whereas I feel like overseas, since, soccer is such a big part of a lot of people's cultures, that you have just more room to grow.
Right.
Like, it's possible for you to reach that first division. It's possible for you to become a star if you do well, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to have quality and you have to play, and all those fundamental things have to align for you. But if you do it and you ball out, you're going to a first division team, like, no questions asked.
100%.
You know?
100%. I was gonna say, you see some USL guys like move up, right? It's rare. I would like to say, if we all can agree, that it is rare for some USL guys to move up to the MLS. Like the kid from Charlotte, I think he's playing on Charlotte now, but was playing on a USL team, balled out there and got moved up, and he was on like a D3, right? Being blown up on social media, 100% deserves it, worked hard, balled out, and like he's climbing up the rankings. However, that's like one in however many, right? It doesn't happen much. Whereas if, let's go overseas, we can have a conversation with the first team in Poland, Germany, Europe, France, all these other countries. And you'll say, oh yeah, no, I started at the small club here, right? And I climbed up the rankings.
And that's the thing, because I've seen so many guys that have gone signed for USL Championship just because they played in a second division in Switzerland. No recognition of how they play.
Just resume.
Just resume. Oh, he played there. He must be good. Let's bring him in. Immediate contract. And I've seen it firsthand multiple times.
Wild. Are they getting paid?
And they're getting paid. They're getting paid. So that's the difference. Here, you go overseas, people are going to look at you realistically. Whereas if you can start younger and just make the move, try your luck. You just never know. Even when you reach 21, 22 years old, it doesn't work out here. Over there, you can come back, and I guarantee you, if you've already been a professional overseas, you will get something. You will get a contract.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Because people already look at you a certain way when you come overseas. Oh, played in Sweden, first, second division. Even if it's like one of those leagues. I know a lot of American guys go to the Scandinavian leagues, but it still holds a little bit of weight when you come back, right?
Yeah.
So if you had a kid, let's say, and he was trying to climb up the ranking, would you definitely try to take him overseas first?
Yeah, I would, because I couldn't do it because my family, like I told you, they weren't big soccer people.
Yeah.
I'm a big soccer guy. I know how it works.
Yeah.
I know how the inside of the business already works. I know how the politics work. I know what you need to do to get to that level. So I will take my kid realistically. If I knew, obviously, got to be realistic with yourself. You have to see the talent in the kid. But if I knew that my kid was good, because I'm also not going to inflate my kid's head up. If you have to be realistic with kids or like the youth, But if I saw that he had the potential to continue, I would for sure take him overseas and just try it. Try it.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's the real life side of things where it's like, you had mentioned your mom, your stepdad raising you here, like you couldn't even miss school here. How is your mom going to let you go overseas?
Exactly.
It's like, hey, yeah, vai com Deus, go with God, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
It's not,
exactly.
That's unfortunately not the reality. Do you think promotion relegation is such a hot topic in the U.S.? There's too much money for them to do promotion relegate, too much money in the league today where they say it's going to hurt it. Obviously, just after what we're talking, you're definitely for promotion relegation, right?
100%.
Why don't you think we've gotten there?
Money. And it's not that people can afford it. It's just the money side of it. They want to profit the most amount of money that you can.
The pay-to-play system.
Exactly.
There's just so many different things.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's just money. Money drives. At least here, because let's be honest, you do promotion relegation, now you require the USL Championship teams to have a standard level stadium that costs millions and millions of dollars. And then, people don't want to do that because they're like, oh, like, well, I'm about to spend so much money and my team's not going to make the first division, and it's a mentality because it's not cultured yet. Whereas you go to England, let's say, you have the championship teams there that have great stadiums as well. They're just as qualified as, the other one, the Premier League ones. But it's also the fan base. It's just still not. It's still, the sport is growing.
Still,
here.
It's grown quite a bit.
It's growing, but it's still not. I don't think the passion will ever get to how it's here in the U.S., how it will get with the rest of the world.
How long do you think it takes before it even gets close to that? You think in your lifetime?
I don't think in my lifetime it will get to that. Slowly, because the U.S. has people are more passionate about other sports. You have the NFL, the NBA, NHL, MLB. In Brazil, for example, what do you have?
It's soccer and jiu-jitsu, my guy.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have so many competitors, realistically, where you go to an NFL game, you're packing out that stadium. You go to an MLS game, if Messi's not playing, there's a lot of open seats there,
1,000%.
And I don't think in my lifetime it will ever get to how it gets in Europe. I don't think in my lifetime it would ever get to how it gets in South America. I don't think people are gonna be that passionate about the sport.
We talked a little earlier about having foreign talent come in if it helps grow it or if it blocks it, and I agree 1,000%. I think it blocks it. But where's the balance, right? Because Messi came, blew up the league, right? I would not arguably, it's facts. There's much more viewership. The sport has grown just because of this arguably best player ever. I'm not going to argue he's the best player ever. He's grown the sport here. So where do you think bringing in more players like that would grow it here? It just doesn't matter.
To me, it doesn't matter because it's Messi.
That's a hot take.
How many Messis are we going to see in our lifetime?
Just one.
Wait till Messi leaves and retires. Let's see how it goes.
That is
because Messi retires.
Like,
you think people in Argentina are gonna watch Inter Miami? No disrespect, no, because you're watching it because you have arguably the best player ever playing
right now.
So of course it's gonna bring up the viewership. I mean, there's no question about that. It's very simple.
So you think it's more temporary?
I think it's temporary, and I think it has to be a drastic change in the structure of everything for it to even be able to grow. And I just don't think that it will, because money talks. That's it.
What about with the World Cup coming in 2026? You don't think that helps a little bit? Temporarily, maybe?
Temporarily.
Yeah.
It will help temporarily.
But you got to fix the foundation.
But will it ever reach the levels of these big leagues? I don't think so.
No.
There has to be a lot of work done for sure. And you have to view it differently than what is being viewed right now.
Being Mexican born, did you have a Mexican player that you looked up to and was like, this is the guy? Like, that's who I kind of want to emulate.
I did.
Who was it?
I did. It was Gio dos Santos.
Oof. He's nice with it.
It was two, Gio dos Santos and Rafa Marquez. But I like Gio dos Santos more because he was an attacking player. But Rafa Marquez was an idol,
Who's the Mexican GOAT?
Rafa Marquez.
By far.
Rafa Marquez. I put him over Hugo Sanchez, in my opinion. Yeah.
That's a hot take. Well, let's say a bunch of hot takes today, huh?
Yeah. Rafa Marquez. Just because of what... I would say more because he played more in like the era that I was watching soccer. Right. People talk about Hugo Sanchez. For me, it's like people... I don't know. I wasn't able to see him really. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I probably wasn't even... Like, I was very young when he probably retired.
Yeah.
Where I saw Rafa Marquez, he played with Messi. He played at that Pep Guardiola team,
That's
2009.
That team was nasty, bro.
And he was starting a lot of games, you know. So for me, it's no questions that for me he's the guy, the Mexican GOAT. Yeah.
Bro, I love it. Dude, we touched on so many topics today, like mental health, which is big, the U.S. development system, all what's wrong with it. You had a couple hot takes, which I agree with, and we touched on a lot, and I want to say thank you. I'm excited to see your recovery, how you're doing it, where you're gonna be, bro, because you are baller, and I'm excited to see where you're gonna be, bro. Not only just in soccer, but what you're learning, what you've learned, 7 surgeries, the mental you talked about, bro, crying every night, like that's not easy shit to go through, and you're gonna carry that into whatever it is you do, and you're gonna leave a big impact in people's lives, bro. So I'm excited. Thank you for coming on. David Loera, everyone. Anything else you want to, maybe where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram, David Loera _30. And no, there's one more. If I could tell people that are, trying to make it into the sport is just don't give up, obviously, but also be realistic with yourselves and always stay true to yourself, because you're gonna go through ups and downs. You're gonna go through more ups than downs. There's gonna be more failures and success, and keep those people who truly love you close to you, and don't ever push them away, because they're gonna be there forever, no matter what, through the good and bad times.
Bro, so, I love that. I want to say thank you so much. Anything else? I think
I brought you a gift.
Oh, word?
Yeah, a gift.
Oh, what is that? Offset?
Yeah, I got you a gift.
Okay, we got what is that, signed jersey?
A signed jersey from my last club.
Let's go. Lexington here. Bro, yeah. I appreciate that.
Nah, man.
We got to show the camera.
Yeah. 1998.
There we go, bro. I love it. We should have had this, you know. Yeah. Bro, I appreciate you doing this. And again, if you guys are, you know, going through any type of hardship with injuries, reach out, man. I know, like, as athletes that have been through it, we need to create and foster a community where we can lean on each other more, right? You talked about people need to relate, right? And just having that open arms of whatever it is you're going through.
I mean, just DM me, whatever. I'm there, and I will give you my most honest opinion no matter what, and I will try to help you. And if you're going through those hard things, I would love nothing more than to help people and share my story, and maybe it can, you know, inspire somebody else to not give up, and inspire somebody else to, you know, okay, well, maybe I'm going through this, but I'm gonna keep going.
I love it, bro. Thanks again, and this is The Path Unfiltered.
We have it.
Good. Yeah. Well, that was fire. That was really good.